The song. Oh, good morning. Good morning. I will just let you guys know we are recording this to make sure everybody has access to helping students from the ground level of the FAFSA, understanding what questions you guys should be asking and how to best serve our students getting through the students and parents getting through this process. So this is very much going to be a little bit different. This is going to be a Zoom meeting. We want you guys to be able to ask questions, especially when we're on a slide. And we're getting into some complicated financial aid stuff. So you guys will have the ability to unmute yourself. I think we have a slide for that, right, Frank? We have our housekeeping slide, or did we not
Yeah,
update it?
the one thing I forgot was the housekeeping slide. We have no housekeeping slide, so make it
Hey,
up.
perfect.
Do your
Oh yeah.
housekeeping.
So just for continuity, guys, we want to make sure everybody's muted. Unless you guys have something important to say, then by all means, please unmute yourself. Um, the best thing we can do today is help answer any complex questions that you guys might have, and also start from some of the strategies that we're seeing that can be successful helping students and families get through this process. With that said, I'd like to introduce the Cash Money Princess, who'll be our moderator for today. My name is DJ Gusty Gus from Hawaii P20 and the University of Hawaii, and it's my honor. It is my privilege. It is my duty, my unmitigated reserve to share the accolades of the greatest financial aid mind of our generation. Ladies and gentlemen, he's helped countless students and families across the entire nation. And then he came all the way to Hawaii and has been here rocking the house for a couple of generations now of students. He's helping the students of the students that that have been here. His knowledge base goes all the way back to when we were doing tax returns and paper FAFSAs uh, in cafeterias. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the Godfather of Financial Aid, Mr. Frank Green.
Aloha, everybody. Good morning. And just to set the record straight, I'm dealing with generations and generations and generations now of students, families, and parents. So really, let's jump right into it. And DJ mentioned we're here to answer your questions. We're assuming at this point you don't know what questions you should be asking. We want to make sure that you ask those questions. So jump right in. Keep yourself on mute when you're not talking, but when you need to talk, unmute yourself and come and chat with us, most definitely. Overall picture of the FAFSA. This is the 26-27 FAFSA. It works. It works really well. It's really smooth. We've just completed 2 months of beta testing. We started off back at the beginning of August with beta 1. September 1, we moved on to beta 2, and things are just as smooth as can be. So all the horror and torment that you've had to put up with in the past years, this is your reward. You get to have an easy year where things actually work and it goes through. Couple stumbling blocks in the new process, and we'll definitely point those out. But I just want you to know overall, breathe a sigh of relief, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea, relax. It's working, it's looking good. Why do we want to do the FAFSA? Well, again, it is what determines the SAI. And for those of you who have been around for a while, you may remember the EFC. The EFC is gone. We killed it 3 years ago and replaced it with the SAI. It is still, in a sense, a nonsensical number. It means very little to the student. It does not tell them their eligibility. Always remember, it is the school that is going to notify the student of their eligibility, not FAFSA. FAFSA can give estimates, it can do whatever it wants, it can give you maybes, but the actual determination of a student's award comes from the school. The SAI or the FAFSA, with its SAI, is the only document required to determine a student's eligibility for federal aid. So when we look at the federal Pell Grant, I don't need to see any other supplemental documentation. It is solely the FAFSA that will let me determine a student's eligibility for their federal Pell Grant. It also lets us in the financial aid office, or is one of the figures we use to determine a student's eligibility for other types of aid. Now, is the student going to be eligible for the SEOG? Is the student going to be eligible for college work study? Is the student going to be eligible for a subsidized loan? All of that eligibility, we start with the FAFSA to determine that. In addition to federal aid, the FAFSA is going to be used by state, institutional, and private financial aid programs as well. So it's not just the federal stuff that's involved, but no, we don't in Hawaii because we don't really have state programs. But many states will use the FAFSA as an eligibility document as well. Institutional aid, schools that have their own money and give out aid, we use the FAFSA to determine a student's eligibility for that aid. And
Hey,
you will,
Godfather,
yeah,
I wanted to start off the right off the bat because this presentation is for our high school, our counselors, our ancillary counselors, and our teachers and our other counselors, maybe our advisory teachers and our PTP coordinators, and also our college access professionals across the state. I wanted to start off with this question: who should be filling out the FAFSA?
not me. No, just kidding. I am doing it. I already did, just for the record.
Yeah.
This is a student-centric form. It is designed, it is written, the flow is set up to start with the student. Okay, we don't lie to you. We give it to you the truth, even though we don't like to. A parent can start this application, but they are going counter to the way this thing is designed. It will eventually work, but it will not run as smoothly as it does when a student. For example, when we'll go in later and we'll talk about inviting a contributor, and if the parent starts it, they need to invite the student. Now we have a brand new shortcut that's really slick and smooth for inviting parents, for the student to invite their parents. It doesn't work the other way. So if a parent starts it, they're going to have to use the old-fashioned way of inviting a student, and a bunch of little things like that. I mean, it's not something that can't happen. It's just something we don't want to recommend by any means whatsoever. We want the student to start this form.
Awesome. I want to ask you a philosophical question also. What if a student is coming to you and saying, they're not necessarily going to be going to college? Should they be doing the FAFSA?
Yeah, I would strongly recommend it. Remember, the FAFSA is good for one year, one award year. So it starts really on July 1st and is valid for the next 12 months up until June 30th. I can fully understand a student who's just completing high school going, man, I've had it with school. I ain't going nowhere. And they shine on the fall semester. They're not going to register, enroll, or anything else. And September or October rolls around and they look around and they see all their buddies and friends are in college and they're kind of scratching their head going, oh, shoots, what do I do now? Do I got to go to work or what do I got to do? And they're thinking, well, maybe I should take a look at college. Well, they can go back in the spring term in January, and the FAFSA is already done. So they don't have to do it. It's one less obstacle for them to get in. So just
Yeah,
keeping your options open. You might as well do it.
I
Um,
call that the honey girl effect.
there we go. Sure. Honey
Oh, honey
girl's
girl,
back in school.
honey girl, go college. I need to go to college too. Oh, okay. Awesome. Wanted to start with that. Thank you.
Moving on. Thank you very much. When do you file the FAFSA? You can go do it this afternoon if you want. It is open. Our scheduled opening was October 1st, and they're just really proud of themselves right now because they beat that. So it is open, and this is not a beta testing or a sample or anything. It is the full-blown FAFSA. It is just flat out open. So I know Lauren had done hers the other day while we were in the middle of a workshop, and it took her like 10 minutes to get through the thing. It is as smooth as can be. It is open now. It's actually a good time to do it because the masses are not aware yet that it's open and are going to be waiting until October 1st. Remember, we have this every single year where the opening happens and 6 million people jump on their computer and try and enter or submit at the exact same time. And yes, the system does crash. It's an antiquated federal computer system. It's a new FAFSA, but the computers themselves are antiquated. So if we're waiting till October 1st, we would recommend waiting till maybe October 5th or 6th or something. Give it a few days for the masses to get theirs in and make them happy, and then you can jump in and there shouldn't be any issues whatsoever. Or do it now. We have limited amount of people submitting the FAFSAs right now, so we've had no problems, no issues. We do stress the idea of doing this early and just kind of in general guidelines when we're talking to students. October's early. November, if you're doing it in November, okay. I'm okay. I'm not going to be upset over November. I would prefer October, but November's not bad. If you're doing this in December, now you're pushing it. And now we're going to have words because it needs to get in. Now, having said that, I can say early, early, early till I'm blue in the face. The bottom line is get it submitted. So, if everything goes bad and the computer stay broke and the internet goes down and you just can't get to it until January or February, do it. Um, you're going to miss out on some funds that you might have been eligible for, but there are still funds that you may still be eligible for, and you're not going to know unless you submit the FAFSA. So submit it when you can, but ideally we want it done October, early November. Get it in. One of the things that students will find frustrating is every single year is that we sit here with a stick and beat on them and say early, 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 and they trust us, they believe us, they get it in early, and they wait a month and they say, well, so where's my award? What am I going to get? What happened? And they hear nothing, nothing, nothing from the schools. No, we will not process an incoming award for a student in November, October, December, even for that matter. We generally start looking at new financial aid applications in December. Now, this varies from school to school, obviously, some earlier, some, well, not too much earlier, but some later, definitely. But believe me, in September and October, I'm dealing with my current students. I have fall awards for the existing class that's in now. That's what's taking up my time. Once I get them settled down to get those awards out, then we're going to start taking a look at the new awards coming in. Ideally, I can tell you at my institution, we shoot for an end of February, beginning of March award sequence. I'm really happy if I get it out at the beginning of February. Doesn't happen a lot, and I can pretty well tell you in the UH system, it's not going to happen this year either. We're going through an update to the banner system, which is going to be, well, it's not my job, so we'll move on from it. But it's going to delay things a little bit, definitely.
There's gonna be a delay of all banner services in December, totally,
Yeah, everything.
which is gonna push back everything a little bit. Yeah.
It terrifies me when they do an update, a major update to the banner system, because stuff don't work all the time. So, yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. It's happening and it's coming, but it is what it is. But it could conceivably delay awards. We're going to do our best to get them out as fast as we can, but there are some things that are just not in our control. We
Godfather,
always,
we got a great question here.
oh, great,
Um, why don't we advertise from July 1st?
because we want to, because that's the validity of the FAFSA. The FAFSA's validity starts on July 1st and runs through June 30th. And I'll come back to DJ's specific question. We make sure that we tell our students this, not so much for the dates, because they're not going to go to school until August or September anyway. Um, we want to make sure they're aware that the FAFSA is valid for 1 year, which means they have to do it every single year. Many of them come into this thinking it's a one time and gone. It's not. It's got to be redone every single year, October. So, we just tell them, get it on your calendar. Why do we run a July type of date? There's a couple reasons. One, it ties into some federal fiscal stuff, not the budget, but like T-bills and things like that run on that same calendar. It also gives the schools flexibility for summer students. So schools can make a decision to consider summer as being a header or a trailer, meaning for students coming in the summer, I can use the new financial aid or I can use the year just ending on June 30th. So we have that flexibility of which aid year we're going to use to award summer aid. FSAID. The good news is here, and I'm sure most of you anyway are familiar with the FSAID, the whole routine of you get it in and you had to wait 2 to 3 days before it was valid. You couldn't do the FAFSA. You couldn't try and do anything at all until it became valid. This was a really frustrating thing for us because we would have FAFSA completion events. We'd bring in the family, the student, and their parents, and we know that takes a lot of effort to get them in. And then the parent didn't have an FSA ID. We'd have them do the FSA ID, and they couldn't do anything with it because they would have to wait for 2 to 3 days for the Social Security database match. So we would have to say goodnight and send them back. And to try and get them back in another time, we knew that was an obstacle and going to cause problems. And sure, it did. It definitely did. They fixed that. It is now immediate. So as you complete the FSAID application, it will give you the Social Security match. Or, and nobody talks about this, but if it ain't going to match, it's going to tell you right then and there that it doesn't match. So it's not like you get it in and then you find out 3 days later. You're going to find out right away that it's not matching. You still have to get a match, which means you need to double check the information you're entering against the Social Security card. Keep that in mind that the information being used to create the account must match exactly. We have a problem with exactly. They don't seem to understand the definition. And, on my card, it's all in uppercase letters. Can I put it in lowercase letters in the application? Is that exactly the same? Oh, okay. Then no, you can't. It has to be exactly the same as it appears on the Social Security card. This is what we're trying to match. Now, this includes the first name, the last name, the date of birth, and the Social Security number. All those four elements must be an exact match, and you're not going any farther. Good news is once we've got the match, it's an instant match, and they can go right ahead and start the FAFSA. They're good to go. Just kind of a side note, don't get overly excited because it hasn't happened yet, but the FAFSA processing is on its way to becoming instant as well. So right now, once a student completes the FAFSA and submits it, they have to wait 2 to 3 days before it is processed, and they can then get their SAI. We are very close, and I'm not going to say when at all, but we're very close to that being instant as well. So they would complete their FAFSA, hit submit, and they would receive a processed FAFSA submission summary basically immediately. There are always questions when we deal with our family situations of parents who has to have an FSA ID. First off, if a parent already has one, they don't make another one. They use their original FSA ID forever and ever and ever. In fact, they cannot make another one. This really frustrates some parents because they maybe have a child 3 years ago that applied for FAFSA. They had to create an FSA ID. Then they totally wrote it off and forgot the thing. And the first thing they do is go to make another one, and they cannot make another one. And then they're going to have to retrieve it. And we get into issues of, do they have access to the cell phone? Do they have access to the email they used when they created this? Because that's what they need to do to retrieve it. And we kind of go round and round. But you cannot make another FSA ID. It is what it is forever. Married, living together, filing joint taxes. Only one parent needs an FSA ID. So again, that's married, living together, and filing in joint taxes. And for 26-27 award year, we're looking at 2024 taxes. Now, if they filed separate, and I don't care why. It's none of my business. If they filed separate taxes, then they will each have to have an FSA ID. We're going to have to connect to IRS for each one of them to get their tax information. In the case of divorce or separation, well, we're only going to want one parent's information, meaning only one parent is going to need to have an FSA ID. The bigger question that we need to answer is which parent. Now, this has changed in the last couple of years, same as last year, but it was different than the year before. We are looking for the parent who provided the greater amount of support in the past 12 months. No, I am not going to define for you what support means, meaning we're not going to define it for the student. The federal government doesn't define it for us, so we're not going to define it. We don't want them to define it. This is one of these be careful what you ask for kind of thing. Anytime the federal government decides they're going to define it, then we start getting into committees and laws and rules and regulations, and it goes on and on forever and makes everybody's life miserable. So we don't want them to define it. It's up to the student and the parent to figure out which parent. And to be honest, on the surface, once they've decided that it is mom who provides the greater amount of support, we're going to believe them. And unless I get conflicting information, I'm not going to question that decision. And that's it. They're done. So again, parents and student need to make that decision. Child support, just so you know, child support being paid is considered support by the parent who is paying the child support. So whichever parent is assigned the responsibility of paying child support, that would be considered part of their support. That does not mean that they're providing the greater amount of support. It just means that needs to be considered support coming from them when we're looking at who provided the greater amount of support. And I can tell you, schools do not sit down with a student and get out spreadsheets and try and figure out who provided the greater support. We're not doing that. We will tell the student, you go talk to mom and dad, you figure it out, and that's who we're going with. So that's the way it goes. Studentaid.gov, this is the landing page or the opening screen for all things federal financial aid. To create the FSA ID, they will come here, go to the upper right-hand corner, and click on Create an Account. This is the next screen. Left-hand side, click Get Started, and then we get their personal information. Again, this information must match with what was used to create their Social Security account. Got to be the same name, date of birth, Social Security number. We do have the option here for parents that don't have a Social Security number. Now, mind you, I said parents because the student is required to have a Social Security number. The parents are not required, and they can still get an FSA ID. So for our students in mixed families where the parents are not documented, they can still get an FSA ID. They can't get a Social Security number, but they can get an FSA ID. They would check off the box that says, I don't have a Social Security, and that would automatically put them into a secondary verification process, which has to do with TransUnion getting involved, the credit union, and starting to ask them questions about their past life. What street did you live on 10 years ago? And on and on and on.
We,
If it
we also want to
works,
make sure
yeah.
that this box right here doesn't mean you don't have your social security number with you.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
Because I've seen students click that button going, I don't have my social security number. You don't have it with you, but you have a social security number. So make sure students aren't checking that if they just don't have their social security number. Okay.
That will cause all kinds of grief. Thanks, DJ. That's a good
Yeah.
one. Um, so I mean, it can be done. It's not a terribly smooth process. I will tell you that. And for those of you who have been through this before, up until last year, they would get asked these questions by the credit union or the credit reporting agency, it's TransUnion, I think is who it is. And then they would have to submit documents. So they would have to actually submit copies of birth certificates and driver's licenses and passports and on and on. It was a list of documents that had to be submitted. And then the federal government kind of figured out, Oh, shoots, they submitted it. What do we do with it now? They had no mechanism for storing these documents. There were no file cabinets available to put them in. And they found themselves with all this paper, and there's not a thing they can do with it. So they knocked that off. You're no longer going to have to submit all the documentation, but you do still have to go through the process. Username, student makes it up, or parent, whoever's doing the application. They make up the username. It's up to you. It is unique nationwide. So if you want to type in Snuggles as your username, chances are you're not going to get it because I think somebody else has probably already used it. What we advise our students to do here, instead of giving up on Snuggles completely, because it was the first thing that popped to their mind, add some numbers to the end of it. So give me a 808 or give me a zip code or give me a date of birth. Give me some numbers that are familiar to the student. We think there's a little bit of a chance they might remember that username because it was the first thing that popped in their mind. If we make them go get creative and start coming up with something else, there's probably no chance they're ever going to remember it. Email address required. You must have an email address or you cannot complete this process at all. So if they don't, they should go out to Google or Yahoo or Hotmail or wherever you can get these free email accounts and make up the account. We do not want students using their school email address. And by school, I mean high school or college email address. Eventually, you will leave school, and the school will eventually delete your email. You need to have access to this for the rest of your life. This is your FSA ID for when you grow up and get married and have your own kids and go to college. You'll need to use this FSA ID. I say that, I don't really believe that because I think they'll change the whole system by then. But anyway, as it stands now, it is for life. You need to make sure you have access to that email address forever and ever and ever. So students, don't use your school email address, and parents, don't use your work email address. You never know what can happen. Enter it once, enter it twice, make up the password. Got to be 8 characters. It's going to be uppercase, lowercase, got to have a number. I recommend that once they do this, click on the show password and then get your phone out, take a picture of it. Do whatever you need to do to remember this. Add it to your contacts under FSA ID or whatever the case may be. I realize pictures sounds easy to say, but watching the way students operate, they can have tens of thousands of pictures on their phone. And when they need it, they can never find it. So that gets to be difficult. Um, but we do need to remember this username and password. Mailing address, no stress. You got to give me an address. I don't care what address you put here. I'm not going to mail you anything, and neither are the feds. We communicate via email. We're not sending snail mail out. So if you got a P.O. box and you want to use that as opposed to your street address, go right ahead. For all I care, you can use your neighbor's address. It's not that important. We do want you to include your mobile phone. Cell numbers are very helpful. We will use them in the case of account recovery when we forgot our username or we forgot our password. We can use our cell phone. We can also use our email. The difference here is the cell phone communication is a matter of 5 seconds. So you send a request that you forgot your password, and it will send you a security code in 5 seconds. The email keeps getting faster and faster and faster, but it still takes a couple minutes to get an email. So cell phone is easier, faster. It's not required. But if you do have a mobile phone number, we want you to enter it here and then come down and click this box that says, yes, I would like to use my phone for account recovery. That'll make your life a little bit easier. We do not need an alternative phone number for anything. This is communication preferences. Literally, the only thing that needs to be done here is the language towards the very end. You have two options. It's either English or Spanish. So if you want to change it all to Spanish, you can click the arrow and select Spanish. Otherwise, leave it in English. We were told that we were going to have between 11 and 14 languages a couple of years ago, and they don't talk about it anymore, and that you don't. So they're just kind of giving up on that. We don't have the multitude of languages yet. So English or Spanish. If English is your choice, then you have nothing to do on this page. Continue and go. All right, you know this game. Security questions. Pick a question, give me an answer. I don't care what your answer is. It's not something we check. You cannot use the same answer for all four questions. I tried. It wouldn't let me get away with that. You have to have a different answer for each one. But again, I don't care what the answer is. Continue. We're going to verify your cell phone and verify your email. So we're going to come up to the verify my cell phone and click there. It will send you a text message and you can count it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You've got a 6-digit security code in the text message. Enter the code here, come down to the lower right corner and click verify. We'll do the same thing with your email. It'll take a couple minutes. Be patient. And then once you get it, enter the code, come down to verify. You've now completed your your FSA ID application. We have a chance to review everything. And from here, it will bring us back to studentaid.gov, the login screen. We're going to log in with our newly created FSA ID and password. Enter it and click Login. This will be the next screen you see, and it's like, what do you want to do? We're going to start a brand new 2627 FAFSA form. Now, should you not finish it in one sitting, you can always come back to it, and you would come here to edit existing form. I will tell you, I kind of can't imagine you not finishing it. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, you can do this after dinner and still get your TV shows in that evening. It just doesn't take that long. Parent, when you go to sign in, I'll show you this later, but when you go to sign in, you're going to be coming here to accept an invitation. We do recommend it's the student who starts it. This is a student-centric form. We've got these 4 different screens of, I'm sorry, it's garbage. And I'm going to lose my federal job for saying it, but this is explanations about what the FAFSA is and everything else. By all means, if they want to watch them, I recommend using these videos as sleeping aids. So if the NyQuil's not putting you to sleep at night, go ahead and watch 1 or 2 of these videos. You'll be out in 10 minutes. Otherwise, I recommend skipping it and not wasting time. Continue once, twice, do it 3 times. And for the heck, do it a 4th, and we're going into the FAFSA. This is actually the beginning of the application. It starts with the identity information for the student. You cannot change anything here, so don't even think about changing it. This information is coming to you from the FSA ID, or coming to the FAFSA from the FSA ID.
Hey, Godfather.
Sir.
As we're working with students on this particular page and we're seeing their student identity information, we've seen it in the past where wrong information has been transferred from the FSA ID here. And we've seen wrong information, like the name is misspelled or they have the wrong birth date, and we have things transferred to the FAFSA here. Do we know yet whether or not that wrong information is being transferred? I mean, I'm sure we're going to find out. Have you seen one live yet? Where
No.
No. Okay. So that problem is supposed to be fixed?
It's not supposed to exist anymore.
Okay.
Now, let's give it a half a month and see how many FAFSAs we look at and see if we find it. I mean, I've only seen 50, 60 FAFSAs so far, new ones, 26,
Yeah,
27. I haven't
me
seen
too.
that many. I haven't seen it happen yet, but that
So the
doesn't mean that
error, if there is wrong information, the error will be on the FSA ID side and it won't match. And will it stop the student from going through on the FAFSA side?
it'll stop the FAFSA from being processed.
Okay.
They'll be able to complete the FAFSA, but when it goes to the processor to get processed, it'll reject
It'll
because the
reject
information is
there.
not matching. Yeah.
Okay. Which means the student would have to watch out for that.
Yep.
Okay.
That's why we constantly tell them, view your FSS, go look at your FAFSA submission summary, make sure there's not a problem.
Okay. Perfect.
State of residence, it will pick your state up from the FSA ID. When you typed in your address, it will use that state as by default. And date you became a resident. Um, you figure it out. I mean, it's not a big deal. If the student was born here, then they would enter the month and year they were born. I will, just because it's common for us, when dealing with our Pacific Islander students, this can cause a little bit of problem. The Pacific Islanders, so these are the students that come from Micronesia, Marshall Islands,
Our
and
compact
Palau,
of free association students.
and those guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
They get to a citizenship question, and we'll see it here in just a minute, but it asks, are you a U.S. citizen? Are you a legal non-citizen, permanent resident? And then the third option is you're not eligible for financial aid. So their answer is the second. They're not a U.S. citizen. Once they click on the option that says I am a legal permanent resident, the next pop-up screen asks for their A number. Now, this is asking for their alien registration number, which comes off of their green card. It's on the front and it has the letters UCC something in front of it. It no longer says A
Hang on,
number.
Godfather. I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
Um, so how should COFA students answer the state of residence question here? Especially if they've been living in Hawaii for the past 5 years or 10 years.
And that's the whole point. They don't have an A number. They can't get past that screen. They're stuck. They're stuck because this picked up Hawaii as their state of residence. They need to go back here and change the state of residence to either FSM or Marshall Islands or Palau.
Awesome.
Um, the FAFSA needs to see you're not a U.S. citizen, but you are from Micronesia. Then the A box will pop up and you just click continue and you'll move right on without having to provide an A number.
Okay.
All right.
So just to clarify, if
Yeah.
they live in Hawaii, they're still going to answer that question from their country of origin,
Yes, they are.
islands of origin. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And you don't have a choice. If you don't do it, you're not going to be able to complete the FAFSA because you will get to the citizenship question and you'll be stuck.
Okay.
Consent and approval. This is kind of new. This is what makes the hookup with IRS happen. So the consent and approval you are giving here is for FAFSA to hook up with IRS, transfer your 2024 tax information automatically into the FAFSA. Okay, yeah. We know that most of our students, especially our seniors, they probably didn't file taxes for 2024. Well, and that's fine. What'll happen is we still transmit the request. IRS comes back and says no tax on record, and that's it. That's all I need. We can now move forward. Parent would get the exact same form, and the parent would then scream and yell and bitch and moan about giving federal government access to their taxes, which we never quite understand because it's still the same federal government that's got access to it anyway. And though I can certainly understand it, we see this a lot up on the Big Island. Uh, you don't have a choice. So you can cry all you want, but you do not have a choice. If you do not provide your consent and approval, the student is not eligible for financial aid. Black and white. There's no gray area. There's no way around this. You can't turn around and get a paper form and get away with it. If the consent is not provided, the student is not eligible for financial aid. It will tell you, it will let you complete the FAFSA, and then it will reject. And there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing anybody can do about it. You have to provide the consent and approval. So you go all the way down, bottom right-hand corner, and click approve. So this is the student. Parent, you're going to get the exact same page when we get into the parent section.
So, Godfather, just to reiterate, a student
Yeah,
could go through and a parent could go through their portion of the FAFSA, complete the FAFSA process, and the FAFSA would be rejected because there is no consent. Is that correct?
yes.
So, as a college access professional, how do we advise a student or a parent when they come back to us with this error?
They have to go back in, make a correction, and provide the consent and approval.
Okay. So there's always a chance to fix this,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
have to understand that the consent is really, really important for this whole process to go through.
We really don't want to delay this in any way. I mean, and if we're doing it early enough, okay, we got time, but we don't need the aggravation, or the parents and students don't need the aggravation. Do it right the first time, and then you don't have to go back and fix anything.
Okay.
This is the student's marital status. It says student current marital status. Parent, we get one for you later, but this is the student. We expect this to be single, but it very well may not be, depending on our student. Year in college, for most of our students, this is going to be first year, unless, of course, they're already in college and it may be their second or third year. This first year holds true even if the student has earned college credits, maybe through the early college program or IB exams or AP exams, Running Start, whatever other type of program is out there that lets high school seniors earn college credits. So if they've already earned credits, that's great. More power to them. Hopefully that shortens their time in school and saves them some money. But it is still going to be their first year that they enter an institution of higher education in a degree granting program. So we're still going to check off first year. So the question that always comes back at me, and with this group we can talk about it, are the students that actually complete their associate's degree at the same time that they finish high school. So yeah, they got college credits, but they've got an associate's degree, which would mean theoretically they've completed the first 2 years of high school. Technically speaking, we would be entering either second year or undergraduate. The second year issue has to do with how many credits they've entered, but I'm not even going to get into it because I don't want them to do that. I want them to enter first year. The reason we want that is that they're going to miss out on scholarships if they're entering second or further things. There are scholarships that are going to be for first year students going to college. And technically, it's first year the student has been enrolled in a college, admitted, accepted, and will be attending, even though they've had their associate's degree from high school. Answer first year. If the school's got an issue, they'll change it. Better that than lose out completely on some possible scholarships because we misanswered this. Will they have a bachelor's degree? No. Don't think yet we can get a bachelor's degree in high school. Continue. We're now going to take a look at the student's dependency status. So these pages are where we determine, is the student going to be considered dependent or independent? Now, the one question that you're not seeing here, and you're not seeing here because we use skip logic and it's a smart computer and it knows the date of birth of the student because we gave it when we created the FSA ID. But the student, if they're over 24 years of age, they will automatically be independent. I'm not asking them that. We used to, but we already have their date of birth. So we've calculated that all by ourselves. Is the student active duty military? No, National Guard does not count as active duty military unless they have been called into active duty for purposes other than training. Otherwise, regardless of their status, that does not count. Is the student a veteran of the armed forces? Does the student have their own dependent, like children, for whom they provide at least 50% of the support? I can pretty well promise you that if a student checks this box and becomes independent by virtue of it, that the school is going to question them. Can you document for me how you provide 50% of the support for your child? Um, and if it's a case of grandma and grandpa are actually supporting the child, then no, you're not going to be considered independent just because you have a child. Anytime after the age of 13, was the student orphan or ward of the court or in foster care? If they were, they are automatically considered independent. We would never take foster parents' information on a FAFSA at all, ever, ever, ever. Is the student an emancipated minor? I've yet to meet one. No, they are not. And is the student in a legal guardianship? Okay, so this is the one where we have the most issues here in the islands. We're fully aware that there are many family situations where the student is not actually living with parents, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, neighbor, friends, brothers, sister. There's all kinds of possibilities that don't necessarily involve biological parents. Um, this question specifically asks about legal guardianship, which means in order to answer this, yes, or to check this box off, there must be a court document that comes from the court in the state of Hawaii that has the word guardian on the document. No, power of attorney does not count. That does not make a guardianship. It must be a court ordered guardianship in order for the student to claim this. And again, I can pretty well tell you that most schools are going to ask for that documentation if the student is using this to declare themselves independent. So be careful in answering this. And by all means, reach out to us if you have questions. We deal with this all the time. And I know there are just all kinds of scenarios out there, and we can walk it through with you. Otherwise, we're clicking none of the above. Is the student homeless? Unusual circumstances. Okay, so again, we know that there are circumstances where it's not going to happen. The student is not going to get parental information. The parents are all in jail. The parents are not around. We don't know where the parents are. They're not part of the child's life. They're gone. Bye bye. Student can't get their information. They're not necessarily in a legal guardianship. They're being raised and they live with grandma, grandpa, auntie, or uncle. We're thankful for that, but that does not qualify them as an automatic independent on the FAFSA, unfortunately. This is where unusual circumstances comes in. This is really where the student is able to select this. It will give the financial aid office a heads up that something's coming. The student is now eligible to complete the FAFSA. They can go through it. They will complete it as a provisionally independent student. However, they are not independent and the FAFSA is not complete. It stay in a pending hold reject file still. The student will need to contact the school. The student will need to tell us what is going on. We will then have a procedure that the student needs to follow, and it's going to be additional paperwork. They're going to have to explain the situation in writing. They're going to have to fill out a form. They're going to have to get third-party verification. They got some hoops to jump through before I'm going to sign off on this. But once they give me the information I need and convince me of the situation, then we will sign off on it. The FAFSA becomes valid, and the student has been declared independent at that point. But
Hey,
they can't
Godfather,
just, yeah,
I want to throw this out at you.
go for it.
Because we see this a lot. We have students here from another country. Biological parents are in that country and they're living with a family member here. Does that count? Does that circumstance count for an unusual circumstance?
It does not, I'm afraid. The fact that the parents are in wherever, in Japan or China, whatever, doesn't matter. The student is still going to need to provide their information. And the parent is still going to need to have an FSA ID. It can be a little bit humbug because they got to do it in English and they've got to fill out the FAFSA. There's not going to be a transfer of tax information because IRS doesn't have Japanese tax forms. It's going to transfer nothing. Parents will need to enter their tax information and translate it to US dollars. So they have to convert whatever the currency is. So again, it's additional work, it's humbug, but no, that does not count for unusual circumstances. They don't get away
Okay.
with that.
All right. Well, just one more follow up.
Yeah,
So if there's a student who is sleeping on a couch, like let's say it's grandfather's couch, student sleeping on grandfather's couch, but it's turned out it's been a couple of years now, and has had no contact with mom or dad. Would that then be an opportunity for a student unusual circumstance check? Yes.
yes, probably, maybe. It depends. There, I
Okay.
got them all. I got all the answers
There you
out
go.
there
You got
for you.
all the
Yeah.
answers in one.
I mean, we're certain sounding like we're talking about couch surfing here. And yes, if they've got no contact with the parents, that probably is going to fall into unusual circumstances. Um, when in doubt, call the financial aid office at the college or get in touch with us. We'll talk you through it. But yeah, quite possibly that's going to qualify. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of the last of this series of questions here. So the page we just looked at, the unusual circumstances, is unrealistic to expect parental participation. They ain't around. They're not part of the student's life. It was abusive family situation, whatever. But it's just unreasonable to expect that we're going to get parental information. This page is not unreasonable. It's parents refusing to provide information. They're trying to outsmart the system and say, no, my kid's 18. I'm not providing anything. They don't get any support from me. I'm not going to claim them on my taxes. You can say what you want. You're not helping anything. Refusal to provide the information makes the student ineligible for financial aid. That's all they're doing. They don't become independent automatically. They're not abused. They're not estranged. They weren't kicked out. They're not going to get a dependency override based on a parent's refusal. They're just not going to get financial aid. That's all there is to it. There is a possibility the student may be awarded an unsubsidized student loan. That's up to me in the financial aid office whether or not I want to do this. I can tell you that most financial aid offices don't. It's kind of a bad way to start college with number one, just a loan, and number two, an unsubsidized loan. And it's not going to pay for much. I mean, the student may get a couple $1,000s. So schools are a little hesitant to do this. And there's no appeal. So if the school says, no, I don't want to do it, that's it. That's the end of the
You know,
game.
Godfather, the other thing that we've seen is students misreading this question and
Over and
saying
over
yes,
again.
they would like a direct unsubsidized loan only. And if they press yes to that, all of those things would apply.
Yeah.
So
And,
make sure that students understand that you want to really want to answer no to this question.
well, and we raised this issue with the department for 2 years, and we screamed and we yelled that this was a problem. I mean, we just had countless students answering yes. We know students don't read, and they just saw a direct unsubsidized loan and said, "Sure, I'll take one of them," and answered yes. And what they did is they just made themselves ineligible for financial aid. So the department's quick fix, which unfortunately has been for over a year, was this automatically defaults to no. The student doesn't have the rest of these, it's either yes or no. It wouldn't automatically say no here. It would be an empty oval. So students got to check one of these. On this one, the no is already pre-populated. So the student would have to take an extra second and override that to answer yes. Otherwise, it's going to be no. We'll see if that helps.
We'll see if it helps. Yeah.
And we get to these student demographics. This has gone through some changes, and I always tend to apologize to my students right up front because this is an absolute waste of the student's time. There is no purpose to this. There's no need for this information. The only thing it's doing is wasting a student's time. None of these questions are part of the financial aid formula. So when we sit down and do the formula, none of this information comes into play at all. It has nothing to do with it. The schools will not even see a student's answer to this. Nobody sees an answer to this except somebody who's roaming the basement corridors of the Capitol underneath Congress. This is where the information is going, and what they are doing with it, God only knows. It's just a waste of their time. It's not necessary. They've stopped messing with my students. There, I get it out of my system. Unfortunately, you got to get through them. Now, the first one, which is, are you male or female? Got to answer. Got to give me an answer. You can't skip it. The rest of the questions, and I'm not going to go through them all, there's like 4 pages, but they all have at the very end of the question an option that says prefer not to answer. I would suggest that the student go through and click the prefer not to answer and just move on. Because the other thing is they're sneaky. It's a sneak attack. You answer one question, like I did, I think, Asia on this one, and up pops a whole bunch of other choices. What kind of Asian are you? And you have to start picking, it's just deeper and deeper and deeper for no purpose, no reason whatsoever. Prefer not to answer and move on with life. This is our citizenship question that we talked about. U.S. citizen or U.S. national? Eligible non-citizen. This normally translates to green card. On the other hand, our Micronesians, Marshallese, and Palauans would answer this question here. As soon as you check this box here, right underneath another pop-up screen will ask for the A number. For our Micronesians, our Pac Island students, as long as they have listed their country as their state of residence, they can skip it and move on. Otherwise, they will be stuck here. And if you can't move on, the reason you can't move on is because the state hasn't been changed to their country. The third option is neither U.S. citizen nor eligible non-citizen. And unfortunately, you're not eligible for federal student aid and not likely to become eligible for federal student aid anytime in the near future. Should you complete this form? Well, two things. I would tell you that you should check with the college that you're planning on attending. You're not going to get any aid from the state of Hawaii. You're not going to get any special aid through the college system, university system. But that's not the same for every single state. Some states, some institutions may have aid for undocumented students. So check with the schools. Otherwise, you may want to think twice about completing this. I would suggest you talk to the high school, college, and career counseling office, see what they have to say about is it worth your time to complete this?
Hey, Godfather.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, go back one. For clarity, can you go through a citizen and a national?
American Samoa, U.S. national.
So if you're born in a territory under the American flag, then you are a U.S. national. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I'm pausing here because I don't know about Puerto Rico. I don't know if that's a citizenship situation or a U.S. national. I believe the U.S. Virgin Islands are considered U.S. nationals. I know Samoa is considered U.S. national.
Saipan, Guam.
Saipan, U.S. national. I'm not sure about Guam. Common sense says it would be U.S. national, but I
Yeah.
don't know that for sure.
Okay. And then could we talk a little bit about students who are illegal here? I mean, parents. We get a lot of parents who are coming and they're undocumented workers.
Yeah.
Um, and I
But
know you were giving your advice about reaching out to other perspectives on whether or not a student should be doing the FAFSA given the environment right now. Um, but yeah, could you talk a little bit about
yeah.
undocumented
And
students?
and one of the major concerns here, um, first off, if the student is undocumented, they're not eligible for federal aid. Black and white, cut and dry, pure and simple. They're not eligible. But we have what we are now calling mixed family situations where the student is eligible. The student is a U.S. citizen by virtue of being born here or whatever the case may be, but they're a U.S. citizen. They're eligible for aid. The parents are still undocumented. Now, technically, according to FAFSA, that student can complete the FAFSA. The parents can get an FSA ID, and the student, if they are eligible, can receive federal aid. The issue or the fear that is there is that if the parents are self-identifying as being undocumented, and that would happen when they create their FSA ID and they have to check off the box that says, no, I don't have a social security number, is that information going to be passed on to ICE? And are they placing themselves in greater risk? Um, Boy, it's a real concern. I can certainly understand the concern. And I don't have a definitive answer. I can tell you that in statute, the information for or provided on the FAFSA is not to be shared with anybody at all. On the other hand, the federal government's the federal government. They get the information, they got the computers, they got the databases. Could they go in and look at it? Well, I'd be a fool to say no, they can't. Will they? I don't think so. I think they've got a lot of other stuff to worry about right now and deal with. I don't think they're going to be looking at FAFSAs and trying to find undocumented parents. I don't, that's my belief. I got nothing I can prove that to. However, the way the laws read is FAFSA information is not to be shared.
Okay. So, Godfather, one last time, DACA
Yeah,
students who are undocumented, are they eligible for any federal monies?
no, they are not.
Okay, awesome.
Not the best answer, but it is what it is. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. It is that kind of environment right now.
Yeah. All right. Parents' education. First off, don't know is a bad answer for any financial aid question. Don't ever answer something with don't know. If you're not sure, did your parent attend college? Go ahead and just say neither parent attended college. This is not part of the formula. This is not used to determine or to help calculate the SAI. This question is used by some schools, maybe, meaning not all institutions. We don't use it. It's totally up to the schools. It is an institutional question and can be used to determine if they're going to award the student institutional money for being a first generation college student. So again, up to the colleges, up to the schools, has nothing to do with federal financial aid at all. Parent killed in the line of duty after post 9/11. We think this is going to be no. Continue. High school completion status. So one of the requirements for aid eligibility is the student has completed either high school and or its equivalent. We think most of our high school students are going to check off high school diploma, but there still could be students that are receiving a GED, and there are certainly students that are being homeschooled. That qualifies. All three of those would be considered having completed high school. The last option on this, none of the above, do not answer that. That does not mean you've completed high school. I don't know what that means. How do you complete high school but none of the above? You're going to slow down the process. You're going to provide additional labor. We're not going to do anything. We're going to stop processing until we talk, because you're going to have to explain to me what none of the above means as far as completing high school. If you completed high school, but you didn't do it with a diploma, you didn't do it with GED, and you didn't do it homeschooled, how did you complete high school? So please don't answer none of the above. It's not going to help anything whatsoever. For students that have completed high school or checked off that option, we need to know what the high school is. This works pretty smooth. You come over here, enter the state, enter the city, and then actually you can come down here and just click search. It's being hidden by what I've got here, but you could just come down and click search. It'll bring up a list. I've only got one school on my list. And then you would just check the circle next to that high school. It will then automatically move your information into the FAFSA. It also, in the background, just so you know, it's going through a verification process that this, in fact, a real high school and not some phony diploma mill that we used to have a lot of problems with. This is how it will appear on your FAFSA. Go ahead and click continue. And finances, not a lot here because, again, remember, we're moving tax information over automatically. Did the student file a 1040 IRS tax form? Yes or no? Two financial questions: amount of grants, scholarships, AmeriCorps benefits that were reported to the IRS. Your answer is zero. Even if you did get a scholarship or a grant, it was not reported to the IRS, so zero. Foreign earned income exclusion, zero.
Hey,
Continue.
Godfather,
Yeah.
going back to the high school part, what if the school isn't listed, like a Hawaii public charter school?
You got a problem if it's not listed. You need to contact that school and have them contact um, federal student aid and get their school listed. And I remember going through this. I go, the famous one was Punahou was never listed on here at all. And they had to go through round and rounds with the department to get it listed. But the first time around, they had left it off. Um, you can when it says no fine, when you get to this screen, you can click the edit and add the high school information. It will go up against the database and it will not match with existing high schools, so you're still going to have an issue. So you need to contact your school and have them contact FSA and add your school to the database.
Yeah. So all high schools, charter and public, should be on that list if
I
they're
have, yeah,
recognized. Yeah.
I've not seen a can't find school for over it 2 years, I think.
Okay.
So I know all the local charter schools are on that list already. I'm sure of it. I've seen it. It worked.
Okay.
Assets. We don't expect this to be complicated for the student. We don't expect them to have a very complicated financial life. If anything, we're looking at cash, savings, checking account, how much money they got in the bank, and how much money they got in the bank on a bad day. We know this number goes up and down. I mean, it does for parents as well. You ask me on payday, I get plenty of money. Then I pay the mortgage, I pay the rent, I pay the bills, I put some food in my refrigerator, I put some gas in my car, and now I'm broke. Give me the broke number. This question actually reads technically, as of the day you submit the FAFSA, how much money you got in the bank. Now, students actually have a little bit of an option here, and that being this can be reported as student money or parent money. And I say that because the account they have is probably the one that the parents opened right around their first baby luau. And they opened it under the student's name, but banks are not in the habit of opening bank accounts for infants. So they required a parent's information as well. So parent gave a name and a social security number. So technically on this account, there's a student name and there's a parent name, which means it can be reported as a parent asset. So we can wait till we get to the parent section and just add it into the parent's answer and then show them both in one answer. That's okay. On the other hand, if the student's got $800, $1,200, $2,400 in their bank account, it's not worth doing. Just report it and move on. If they've got $20,000 or $10,000 sitting in their bank account, realize that FAFSA is going to look at that money and say, well, you should be spending a lot of this on your college education. At that point, I would say show it as a parent asset. Parent asset, we can't blanketly make that statement because we know you got things like bills that have to be paid. So, but you do have the option. I don't expect the student to have much in the way of investments or assets, nor do I expect them to be owning a business or a farm. Students, this is where they will add the colleges they want to receive their information. This is the only way the financial aid office knows who this student is by the student including us on their application. And this is the only way. They can't get it, print it, and bring it to me. They can't email it to me. They can't slip it in under my door. None of that counts. I got to get it directly from the processor. So the student needs to include me. Now, when they're doing these, especially if it's in October, chances are the student's got no idea. They don't know where they're going yet. I mean, it's still in the decision process, and that's fine. Just give me the schools that you're thinking about. Submit it with them. Next week, you wake up and you say, oh, shoots, I wish I'd put Windward Community College. We'll go back in and add Windward Community College. You can always add schools to the form. We're not going to cut you off. And if at the last minute you change your mind and you come up with another school, go add it on. You just need to add it on. If you don't, I don't know who you are, and there won't be any financial aid package because you didn't add me on. I can't tell you how many times day of school, classes starting, or registration going. I mean, but we're right there at the beginning of school. And the student's going, well, where's my financial aid? I didn't hear anything. I didn't get anything. And we check and we look, and they never added our school onto the form. No, you won't get anything unless you add our school. And, at that point, yeah, you can go back in and add your school, but classes are starting tomorrow. When are you going to pay your bill? So you may run into some problems with payment because you're late, because we're not going to process overnight. It takes a little bit. Technically, you're allowed to have 20 schools here. I think that's bad. I don't think that's a good thing. And I think if a student is listing 20 schools, they're just downright being lazy. They're just not even working it, thinking about it. They're just listening to anything they can put their hand on. That's a waste of time. Don't do that. Narrow it down. If you need to, sit down with mom and dad after dinner around the dining table, dirty dishes and all, and figure out what the reality is. What are things looking like? And I'm not saying don't give me your reach schools, go right ahead, but keep it manageable. Um, I think 20 is just ludicrous. There's no way anybody should be including 20 schools on their application. Keep in mind that financial aid isn't going to happen until you submit an application for admissions. Applications for admissions have fees. You're not going to pay 20 different fees. That adds up to thousands of dollars, or a thousand anyway. So you're not going to do that. Um, Narrow it down. I'm happy with 6 to 8 schools. Okay, you gotta give me 10, but 20 is just absurd. It's my day to sit on my soapbox in the corner of Hyde Park. This is how the colleges show up on your application. Again, this means they will automatically get a copy of your application. They may not do anything with it right away. They have their own timeline for processing, but they get a copy. And here's our new way of inviting a parent. This is the big change for this year, is this invitation of inviting contributors. So we're only going to pick up one parent. We're going to enter their email right here. That's all you got to enter is their email, and then click invite. It'll just double check saying you sure you want to invite the parent. We invite them, and this lets you know it's been sent, and they get this code. So the parent's going to get an email that has this code. So when they log in, all they have to do is enter this code, and they're in. Student is Paul done. They'll come all the way down to the signature page, click the box that says I agree, and then down to the lower right and click sign the application. Careful, this doesn't say submit. It's not being submitted, it's being signed. And the next page will remind you, okay, good job, you finished your part. We still need your parents' information before it's going to go any farther. This is the email the parent will receive from the student's invitation. They can actually just go right here and accept the invitation. Technically, they don't need the email. It's not life or death. They could just go sign in the regular way, the same way the student did, just by checking off parent. And then they would accept invitation, log in using their username and password. And here's where they would put the code. And what that does, parent, you're not making your own, or parents are not making their own FAFSA. They don't get a FAFSA. They're providing information to determine the student's eligibility, which will be attached to the student's FAFSA. Lots of information to put you to sleep if you're having problems sleeping at night. Skip it, get out of there, move on. Personal identity information from the parent, again, coming from the FSA ID. You may not change anything here whatsoever. Consent, approval and consent. Again, no option. Parents go ahead and click approve, or the student is not going to be eligible for aid. It lets you know that it's bringing your information over. Parent marital status, if you've done all of these things, pick the most current thing you did. State of residence, you can change that if need be, but it will default to the address or the state that is in the address that you used when you created your FSA ID. If you were born here, give me the month of the year. Otherwise, give me the date you came to Hawaii. Did anybody in your household in the previous 2 years receive benefits from the following federally means-tested programs? Meaning, anybody get food stamps? Anybody get WIC, TANF, Medicaid, which would be the Quest program in Hawaii, free or reduced lunch, federal housing benefits? And this is not a benefit for benefit. You're not going to get less aid or more aid. You're not going to get less food stamps or more food stamps. This is simply a matter of if your family has been deemed eligible to receive food stamps or SNAP benefits, another federal agency checked out the household finances. FAFSA doesn't have to look so closely. Parents, did you file a 1040 tax form for 2024? And did you file a joint return with the parent? Now, if you say no here, then the other parent is going to need to sign in as well. Family size is going to be picked up from your answers and your tax form. So in this case, my parents' taxes had my tax filer, the spouse, and the student. There were three, but I also have grandma and grandpa living in my house. I can't claim them on my taxes because they file their own. They get Social Security, which is still taxable. But I'm providing at least 50% of their support. I pay the mortgage, I pay the food, I pay Hawaiian Electric, I pay the Board of Water. You can definitely include them in this count. You need to add them by putting the number here in this box. And when you do that, it will then pick it up or take the family size to 5. If you don't have anybody, you just leave this box blank and click continue. Number in college, obviously we're going to have one. That's the student who's completing the form, but you may very well in the household have other students in college. We would want to add them in here. Parents' tax information. The first part of this is a rollover. One is for IRAs and one is for other retirement plans. If you cashed in a retirement plan and rolled it over into a new retirement plan, that's going to show up on your tax form as being income for the year, when in reality it wasn't income. It just went into another retirement plan. You'll need to tell me the amounts. If you don't know the amounts, call your tax preparer. They will know. And then any grants, scholarships, AmeriCorps benefits report of the IRS, 0, and foreign earned income exclusion. If you have any idea what that is, you may need to report something. Otherwise, enter a 0 and move on. Child support received. Again, this is flat out received in the last complete calendar year. So for the FAFSA that we're doing now, this is 2023. No, I'm sorry, what was the last calendar? We're in 2024. What did you receive in 2024? And I mean received. Check received, put in the bank account, cashed. I don't care what the divorce papers or any court judgment says. It's physically what was received. Cash, same thing holds true as with the student on a bad day, how much money you got. Uh, Investments. So, investments here, let me tell you what we're not going to include. Your primary residence, the house you're living in, none of my business. Don't tell me. You don't get to tell me about your mortgage either. So that one's kind of a wash. Items or money that's in a retirement account. And I don't care what it's called, IRA traditional, IRA Roth, simple step, KO, 401k. I don't care what it's called. If it's retirement, you don't report it. Life insurance. And again, I don't care what it's called, whole, term, modified, or whatever they call life insurance nowadays. You don't report it. Items of a personal nature. This is your cars, your boats, your motorcycles, your jet ski, your jewelry, your furs. None of that gets reported. It's none of my business. Anything else you got does need to be reported. Report the net amount or net value of that asset. So if you happen to own a condominium in Waikiki that you're renting out, I don't care about the income. That's between you and IRS, but the value of that condominium needs to be reported. We want you to report the net value. So take the appraised value of the property less any type of debt, be it a mortgage or a HELOC, anything associated with that property subtracted, and that then is the value, the net value that needs to be reported. We changed the business and farms this year. Now, if your business employs 100 people or less, you do not need to report it. So if you own a business or the parent owns a business and it's got 50 employees, it's 0. We're not reporting anything whatsoever. If the business employs 101 people, the night before they submit this, they need to lay one person off, enter a 0, submit it, and then by all means, please hire that person back. We don't need to add to the unemployment. Same thing with the farm. If the family is living on the farm, it does not need to be reported. And additionally, here we have fishing enterprises, fishing businesses. So if they own a fishing boat and they're working as fishermen, it does not need to be reported. Spouse, date of birth. We need the spouse's information, but realize, and this is because we said our status was married and we filed a joint tax return. From the tax return, I already have the spouse's name. I have their social security number. The one piece of information I need and I don't have is their date of birth. So that's all that needs to be entered here. Parent is now complete. They check off the box that says I agree. And now we're coming down and we're clicking sign and submit. And away it goes. Congratulations, you're done. And you see this, the parent would see this, the student would get an email that says basically the exact same thing. All right. So
Hey,
you
Godfather,
submitted the, yeah.
before we get to what happens after I file the FAFSA, we got a great question in the chat. Um, all Hawaii Island high schools qualify for free and reduced lunch. So does that mean that every student can say yes to being eligible for free FRL?
You noticed how I skimmed right over that and I didn't bring that up at all? That
I
was with the
did.
hopes of getting out of here and not having to talk about it. No, it does not. And that has kind of messed things up a little bit now and then. When the question is asked by the federal government on the federal FAFSA, do you receive free or reduced lunch? It means, have you been approved by the Department of Agriculture to receive free or reduced lunch? So we're going back to the days before every student got free or reduced lunch. That's a state mandate. The state's dealing it or making that happen. The only student that is allowed to answer yes on this question, did somebody in your household receive free or reduced lunch, is if it has been approved by the Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
You just weren't going to let me get away with it, were you?
Uh, Another question just popped up.
Well,
What about for parents that file separately? So file taxes separately. Do they then get invited to complete the information, or does the student have to invite both of them?
the student will only ever invite one parent. If they file their taxes separately, then the parent they invited, so call that parent one will invite parent two.
Okay, so it's the parental side that invites parent two.
Yeah, the student is always only parent one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've not seen that yet. Seeing how that works. I'm interested to see how that works.
You will all be seeing it soon, I'm sure.
Okay. Um, this is what happens after the student files the FAFSA. And we want to remind you guys that the FAFSA is just the financial aid side of things for a student. The student also needs to apply and be accepted for admissions. An admissions application goes with the FAFSA so that we can process financial aid for that student. So we got to remember to remind students to also submit those college admissions applications as well. We want you guys to be reminding the student about notification of official results that are coming from the FAFSA after a student submits. So students should be looking out for an email notification. Now, students aren't, in the past, we've had some issues with the federal government sending out email notifications for the FAFSA submission summary or the FSS. We want to make sure students, if they don't receive an email notification, for them to log back into their portal to see what the status of their FSS is. The FSS for us college access professionals is going to be really important for students because that is the document that they're going to be uploading for different scholarships and different financial aid opportunities, private opportunities. So we want to make sure that students have access to that, especially after they submit the FAFSA. We want to make sure students are reviewing the FSS comments and making necessary changes. You're going to see a more prominent reminder that there's a problem on the FSS. You're going to see that corrections are needed for students on the student portal this year that will make it easy for students to understand that they're going to have a correction and a correction is needed. We can make any changes to the FAFSA once it's once it's processed. They can make these corrections and fix things that are necessary. So please make sure that we're working with students to review the FSS after the FAFSA is submitted. We want to remind you that the information is sent automatically to colleges. But it's always good for students to make contact with the financial aid office, especially after they've chosen where they want to go to school. They've been accepted to that college or university. It's always great to make contact with the financial aid office just to make sure that they have their FAFSA in line and there's nothing else. We want students to be looking out for any requests for additional documentation that comes from the financial aid office. Remember, we won't be able to process anything until everything is satisfied, especially if we're requesting additional documentation. So we want students to comply with any kind of requests that are coming from the financial aid offices. Okay. We also want you guys to know that to receive the financial aid notifications from the school, that is a student thing. It will never, ever go to the parent. And I know we deal with parents too through this process. So we could get parents' phone calls and parent inquiries about, hey, I haven't seen my kid's financial aid award package, or I haven't seen any answer about the FAFSA. I helped my child, finish that FAFSA application weeks ago. Remember, this is a student-centric process. Okay, the student does the FAFSA application. The student is the one who accepts or declines those financial aid awards. So remember to remind mom and dad about that process. It's a new game in town. It is very much a student-led process for accepting aid or declining aid. Okay. Ah, what a great workshop this is today. We want to remind you guys that we basically are looking at our last financial aid night, which will be next week, Wednesday. We've been going nonstop with the financial aid nights. So if possible, please remind any students and parents that need an overview about this financial aid process to join us next week, Wednesday. Will be our last time working on financial aid nights. In October, we go into the high schools to be helping you guys and your schools complete the FAFSA with in-person FAFSA events. In November, we're going to transition to FAFSA completion workshops. And these workshops will be every Wednesday. We've set Wednesdays from now until spring to be working with students on FAFSA completion. So November 5th will be our first FAFSA completion workshop, 6 o'clock to 7:30. These workshops have evolved into not only helping students complete the FAFSA, but really answer any questions that parents might be having on the process so that they can complete their FAFSA, or if they've already submitted the FAFSA, to make corrections on the FAFSA and help students and parents go through this process. So it can be a very helpful workshop as you guys work independently with students. Feel free to recommend this out. It's always free. Registration can be accessed at collegeiswithinreachhawaii.com. We want to remind you that in November, we'll have 2 Thursdays, November 6th and November 20th, to be talking about scholarships. And we're going to have our awesome scholarship workshops that the Godfather has put together with our friends from Hawaii Community Foundation, the UH Foundation, and our friends from Sallie Mae. This is a great workshop to help students and parents go through this scholarship process. In addition to that, the Native Hawaiian Scholarship AHA will be happening across the state. This will be a mixture of in-person and virtual events. These events are live in person on trying to make it as accessible as possible in our communities. The Native Hawaiian Scholarship AHA brings together all the opportunities for Native Hawaiians in one place. So we're definitely about making sure our Native Hawaiian students are accessing this. But it's really evolved to help all students get through this scholarship process. And there are some scholarship opportunities that do not require Native Hawaiian ancestry. So we want to invite everybody. All students are invited to this process of the scholarship AHA. Um, the cool thing about it is meeting with the individual scholarship representatives so that you can find out helpful hints on getting funded, and then of course what the eligibility is and the deadlines. So you guys can please put this out. More promotion is coming very soon for the individual sites. The first event will be a virtual event, which will be October 14th. Registration will be always at college. Actually, I shouldn't say always. This was usually hosted by the Native Hawaiian Education Association, and we have partnered directly with NHEA to help facilitate the Scholarship AHA series. Registration will be held at collegeiswithinreachhawaii.com. So check us out there to refer students and parents to register. We want to remind you guys that if you guys need additional resources for your financial aid workshops, or if you need additional promotion or stuff to help promote our activities, or if we can help you with your college and financial aid activities, College is Within Reach Hawaii.com is a great mechanism for you. You guys have your own counselor workshop. Counselor resource to access all of these things, including the How to Pay for College booklet, which we definitely recommend to everybody. It gives a whole bunch of different stuff, including the college roadmap. Check out the resources at collegeiswithinreachhawaii.com. Okay, so the presentation slides will be posted shortly for this abbreviated presentation. You can access them. You will be able to access them at the Pacific Financial Aid Association website, pacfa.org, or the College is Within Reach Hawaii.com website. All right. If you guys have any questions or problems, we need to make a change, Godfather. The FAFSA Hawaii hotline. We have taken down the FAFSA Hawaii hotline. That was really in response to the problems that we were having with the Better FAFSA a couple of years ago. And the FAFSA is working much better. So we really just have the FAFSA at hawaii.edu email resource available. Please feel free to email us after this presentation with any questions you guys might have. Please refer it out to students and parents. You do not need to be a University of Hawaii student to access this email address. It is free and it is accessible. If you want to know who you are getting in touch with, you're getting directly to the Godfather of Financial Aid, Mr. Frank Green, and myself, DJ Gusty Gus. Check out our Instagram at Colleges Within Reach Hawaii and Gear Up Hawaii as well. We post upcoming information there that can be helpful for you guys throughout the year. Follow us, share a like, and it's different than MySpace, so I don't really know how it works other than that, but Lauren certainly does. Okay. Any other slides?
No,
I don't think so. Okay.
that's it. We're pal. We did it.
Awesome. We'd like to yield to any questions that you guys might have. Yeah. Oh, mahalo, Ryan. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys as well. Well, there was one follow-up question in this parents filing separately, Godfather. And if we could just talk about this really quickly. Parent one is the one, so two parents not married and file separately, but might live in the same house. Is that correct? The first parent is the one who gets invited. We invite one parent, and then that parent invites the second one. Is there any kind of importance in the sequencing of who does what first, or what parent should be included first?
No,
Okay.
we're just going to have both parents, and the fact that they're not married doesn't matter. If they're living together in the same household with the student, both of their information has to be reported, and might as well say it now. Yeah, step parents' information has to be reported. And I don't care what the prenup says. I don't care what arrangements there are. I don't care about any of that. If there is a step parent, that information has to be reported.
Okay. And Godfather, just to reiterate, in Hawaii, we say, "Oh, this is my other half," but we're not married. We're just fooling around. Um, is that how do we discern that on the FAFSA?
Um, oh, there's actually a category.
Oh,
Not married, but living together.
not married but living together.
They got
Okay.
the 4 or 5 years ago, they got their own category. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Any other last questions, ladies and gentlemen? You're on live with the Godfather of financial aid himself, Mr. Frank Green, the Cash Money Princess, Lauren Fruto, and my meager self. The humbleness knows no bounds. Just to reiterate, both must report if not married and living together. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's an exception to that. Yep. Yes, because you would be required to file your individual taxes. That's
You
right.
can't file joint
You
taxes because
can't
you're not
point.
married.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't file joint taxes. Okay. It's always good to talk these things through, guys. Just remember, if you have any problems or any questions, you can get directly to us at fafsa@hawaii.edu. So if there aren't any other last questions, on behalf of the Cash Money Princess Lauren Fruto and the Godfather of Financial Aid, Mr. Frank Green, I am DJ Gusty Gus. Aloha.
Hello, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, aloha.